Hi there, welcome to the latest episode of my 10-minute moan. And the topic of this 10-minute moan is the strange thing that's happened in the world of the SNP, where now and only now they suggest that they were the alleged victims of embezzlement. Yet, nobody from their party recorded or reported this suggested embezzlement. So it's been a strange couple of days, and I've took my time before making comment on it because I wanted to soak in all the information first before making eventually 3 or 4 different videos. So I thought I would get everything lined up first for just one video to discuss what's happened over the last few days, where we've seen Nicola Sturgeon and Colin Beattie, who was the treasurer of the SNP, cleared and told they're no longer under investigation with the branch form investigation. However, the then CEO of the party, Peter Murrell, who's still Nicola Sturgeon's husband, although they are separated and look as if they're going to divorce, he was a CEO at the time, and he's been at court because proceedings are starting against him, which is weird because two things never happened. First thing, he didn't show in any public court rolls of going to court the other day to start the process, and we're still unsure of what the charges are, which is a bit weird because normally those things are in the public domain. And a lot of people are thinking, well, why was he not in the court rolls and why are we still unsure? All we know is he faces embezzlement charges, but what exactly they are, nobody's saying. Now, what I'm not going to do is people say, oh, you shouldn't even be talking about this case because X, Y, and Z. Well, I'm not going to talk about anything that's not already in the public domain. And I will talk about two people who are no longer under investigation. That's Nicola Sturgeon and Colin Beattie. So they're not going to court anymore. So, what I thought was a bit weird was the timing of this. The Peter Murrell shows up at court unannounced, no public court rolls. Now, for those who are not sure how Scottish judiciary system works, generally every day you have public announcements on court rolls. And you can go onto the internet, you get into court rolls, and you click whatever court you want, and it will tell you everybody that's going to court that day. Peter Murrell did not show on those, and I'm quite unsure as to why. The only similar case we've ever had before was where Alex Salmond was at court under allegations of abuse, sexual abuse of women, or whatever the exact things were, which he got found not guilty for. Or was there not proven? I'm not sure. But he wasn't convicted. And he was always on the court rolls. Every day he's coming to court, it was on the publicly announced court rolls. So even when you've got high, value political cases, and I would suggest that Alex Salmond being a former First Minister of Scotland and Peter Murrell never having held such a position, he's always had office positions within a political party, you would suggest and could easily suggest that that is even odder, right? But never mind, that was just factual. And no news outlet has confirmed his actual list of charges. The only thing we're told is Peter Murrell faces embezzlement charges. So then obviously the newspapers try to catch up with him, Colin Beattie and Nicola Sturgeon, because hours after his court appearance, the police put out a statement saying that Sturgeon and OJ Sturgeon and Colin Beattie were no longer facing investigation or charges. And they went to them, and the statement was put out following direction from the Crown Office. Criminal inquiries into 2 people arrested as part of the investigation into the funding and financing of the Scottish National Party have now been concluded. Now that's quite weird because that is not just talking about this 600 donations. £600,000 missing donations is what kicked off this process. But the police have told us long ago that the investigation was wider than that and they were looking at other things. So I find it interesting that they say part of an investigation into the funding and finances of the Scottish National Party, which suggests that, it's concluded other things. And they've also pointed out that they are following direction from the Crown Office and Prosecution Fiscal Service. So it's not their decision. They're saying it was their decision. They've told us that we're not to be investigating them anymore, which is quite curious. And then they went on to say 73-year-old man, 54-year-old woman are not being charged and are no longer in investigation. Now, Mr. Beattie said he was very relieved. And I'm quite sure if I was Mr. Beattie, the treasurer, which by definition means you control the money, I would be very relieved not to be getting investigated anymore. in a case where at least £600,000 has went missing. I knew myself I had done nothing wrong, but 2 years is a long time to wait for the result. Then we went to Ms. O.J. Sturgeon's house and they caught up with her and she said, I've done nothing wrong and I don't think there was a scrap of evidence that I had done anything wrong. Well, that's kind of a weird statement, that I don't think there was a scrap of evidence to say I was anything wrong. You're not 100% sure. The only way you'd be 100% sure, if you had done nothing, if let's say I had been accused of robbing a bank that I'd never been in my life, I would quite say I don't think there was any evidence to suggest that I'd done anything wrong. I would be saying, well, I've done nothing wrong, so there was never going to be any evidence. I know we're sort of getting het up in small words here, but small words can have big meaning. And I thought that was pretty significant. She then said, I'm completely in the clear, which again is different from saying I've always been innocent. Being in the clear means you could be something, let's say I stole petrol one day and they just never had any evidence to suggest it was me, then I would be in the clear. So that was fun. But one of the most telling things for me was the reaction of John Swinney. And there was two reasons I was like eyebrows up at his comments. Because he said, we're in a much clearer position because what has emerged from the proceedings in court today is that the SNP may be the alleged victim of embezzlement. And that is the issue the courts have got to consider. Now, I thought this was weird for two reasons. The first one was the timing of it. Nobody in the SNP has ever... Now, they should have been kicking up a fuss because evidently at least £600,000 has just disappeared out of their accounts. So you would kind of think that the SNP would be up in arms about this. But not once have they considered or said publicly anything about being alleged victims of embezzlement until the precise moment their ex-leader and First Minister was cleared and no longer being investigated. That's a bit bonkers when you consider this whole thing has been going on for 3-4 years, this whole thing, and not once has anybody from the SNP said, well, do you know, we are the alleged victims in this. So we want justice. We want our money back. We want to find out if that's the case, then, you know, what happens to us next? Never once. The minute Nicola Sturgeon is no longer part of that inquiry, we are the alleged victims of embezzlement. But the other thing that this statement told me was the people involved were the CEO, who's now going to go to court, the Treasurer, who has got sole liability and responsibility for any funds in and out of that party. Ultimately, the person responsible for any pounds, shillings and pence coming in or going out, signs off the checks, authorises payments. That's kind of your job. If that's not your job, you're not taking the responsibility that your office would suggest. The other person involved in this, who's now been cleared, oddly enough, was a woman who has declared that she micromanaged every part of SNP business. Now, if you're suggesting you micromanage, then you would be looking at accounts and things. Now, the only reason this became a problem was the SNP accounts were published one year and they had about £40,000-50,000, I think, in the bank. And quite rightly, one guy who'd put money into their account because they were doing a fundraiser for a future referendum and there was over £600,000 raised, he went, hold on a minute, where's our £600,000 that you were meant to be ring fencing, not using for anything else, ring fencing purely for a potential future referendum? That's what the whole case and complaint started from. Now, my question is, if, in John Swinney's words, the SNP may be the alleged victims of embezzlement, why was it not the SNP that went to the police and said, excuse me, we've got some missing money and we'd quite like to know where it's gone? They, as far as I can see and as far as I can find out, have had no investigation whatsoever into this money at any time before or after the police started investigating them 3 to 4 years ago. Never once have they went, we're missing some money here. Who was it? Never once did the Treasurer... Now, to be fair, we've had previous treasurers who walked out the job because they claimed they weren't being given all the financial information that they asked for. And quite rightly so, you should walk out the job. If you're in an organisation where your responsibility is the money and you're not being given the information you need to verify everything's right and proper, then fair play to you. But Colin Beattie didn't. And Nicola Sturgeon, who admitted that she micromanaged this party, didn't go to the police and say, hold on a minute, where's that £600,000? So the biggest thing out all the stuff that's happened over the last 48, 72 hours with this case and its developments of this investigation, the biggest one for me is John Swinney's claim that the SNP may be the alleged victims of embezzlement. Yet, the SNP done hee-haw about it. And that, to me, is stinking. If you enjoyed the video, please do 3 things for me. Click the thumbs up, leave some comments below, and hit the share button. That'll help loads more people see the videos. If you've not already done so, please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell. But YouTube will do a thing just as the video's getting to a close. We're down in this corner here. They'll put a video that they think you've not seen from their collection that you might like. The most important of all, unless you're the type of person who now believes you may be the alleged victim of embezzlement, but never ever done anything about it in the 4 or 5 years previous, no you. But everyone else, have a great day. Cheerio, bye now.